Hello, Arthur and my dear ones. It is a beautiful day out today. Can't wait to get out and play with my flowers. Today, I have another book of stories. It is The Peter Rabbit Giant Treasury. Today, I'm going to read the story of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail. And of course, Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go out into the fields or down the lane, but don't you go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. "I just made currant scones yesterday." Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed underneath the gate. First, he ate some lettuces, and then some French beans. Then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, who should he meet? But Mr. McGregor! Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages. But he jumped up and ran after Peter, yelling and waving his rake, calling out, "Stop, thieves, stop!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes amongst the cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on all 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not, unfortunately, run into a gooseberry net. He got caught up by the large buttons on his jacket. It was quite a nice blue jacket with brass buttons, and it was new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop on top of poor Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him. He rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Kershoo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time and tried to put a foot on Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter, so he went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea of which way to go. Also, he was very damp from sitting in the water can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lip, not very fast, looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over a stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way out to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could only not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 scratch. Peter scuttled underneath the branches. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing the onions. Peter noticed that Mr. McGregor's back was turned to him and the gate was just beyond him. Peter got down and very quietly started running as fast as he could go along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe in the woods at last, outside of the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. But Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. A fortnight is 2 weeks. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. Hope you enjoyed. See you tomorrow. Love you all. Bye.